How often does this guy get trumped? But ladies and gentlemen, you know where you're standing, right? The snake of snake, the snake of cars, Mr. Carroll Shelby's here with us today. I don't know if these cats want to cook today, but I made a special recipe for the snake and invited the snake to try the snake. There's just too many snakes here. Too many snakes. But what we're going to do, you know, I had the great privilege this last year to be the Grand Marshal of NASCAR in Fieri Speedway in Northern California, where I'm from. And Mr. Denbesti and Mr. Shelby were so gracious to let me drive a Cobra around the track, and I think we put more miles on it around that track than I have since I've had the car. But that's my aside. Thank you. 600 horsepower on 2,200 pounds. I don't know if you've been in a jet without wings, but that's it. So anyhow, these gentlemen invited me to come down and say hi and cook some food. And to me, food and motorsports go together so hand in hand because it's all about the adrenaline one way or another. So to come down here today and be involved in this is an honor and a privilege.
Great.
Thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much. Okay.
Somebody was just holding up a copy of my book. I'll give you a little insight. My book just hit New York Times bestseller last night. So I am just out of my mind about that. But, you know, it's funny because Carol and I were having a conversation on the phone the other day. We were talking about food and about creativity and how it all comes together, and the creativity that he did with the cars. And, you know, it was great. We were being interviewed on Sirius Radio on Trade and Paint the other day. And they said, they said, Carroll, what's your favorite car? And he said, what you've done. He says, it's the one I'm going to build tomorrow. And that just, it's such a great testament to how fantastic this man has been and what he's done for all of us. Because I'll tell you something, and I continue to go on and on. I'm in the market for a Lamborghini, but it just pales in comparison to my Cobra. So I made this recipe for Carroll, thinking about coming to SEMA, and what a kick-ass event, because I don't know that has anybody ever cooked at SEMA before?
Never. And I've known it since it started. I think this is the first time.
This is the first time. All right. So this is all about. So here's what I'm gonna do. Now, if you've ever seen, I do a couple shows on Food Network. Anybody ever seen that show? It's called. I'll let it go at that. But my style about food is kind of like, well, like when you have these two guys up here, it's kind of about, you know, living it and doing it and making it and eating it and loving it and getting into it. And that's the whole idea about this dish. Now, this is actually named after Carroll. This is going to be the snake bite shrimp. Now, this can be done with pasta. You can do it with sandwich, whatever. And if you stick around and you'll laugh and you'll applaud and you'll make obscene statements, you can have some of it. Now, one of my favorite things to work with is shrimp. And shrimp gets a real funny understanding. People say, well, you know, I'm not really a big seafood fan. I'll just give it to you this way. The reason that a lot of people don't enjoy shrimp is because typically, and Kenny knows from being down in the South, shrimp gets overcooked. When you're making a dish, the best thing I can tell you is cook everything, get it all done, and cook your shrimp last. Because when shrimp I hang out with Stabler and I start getting this southern draw. Damn, what? I come back from hanging, huh? That's all right, y'all. How's your mama and them? Southern greeting for you. So anyhow, what happens is cook everything. Get your pastas done. Get your rice done. Your veggies, your salad. Get all those other components done, and cook this shrimp last. Most important thing. And there's two kinds of cooking. There really is. Well, it's kind of like driving a car. There's hot and fast, or low and slow. Anywhere in between, you get a ticket. And my new motto, hanging out with Carroll, my new motto is burn rubber, not food. Okay? That's all I have. This group up here gets to eat. The rest of you, there's a chili dog stand. All right. So what I did, this is what we call, Kenny, in Food Network TV stuff, that's called stalling. Because my pan was so nuclear hot, it wasn't even funny. You can see where it started to kind of caramelize the pan a bit. So anyhow, we'll make this dish for you. Cletus, come on, Perry. This is my right hand in culinary. This is Cletus. Cletus just flew in from Hawaii just to be at this event. Really had to twist his arm. Hey, Cletus, I'm going to cook for Carroll Shelby, and my Cobra's going to be there, and Kenny Saber's going to be. Can you make it? I can make it. So I need a. Do I have a bowl for? Where? Oh, thank you. Oh, it's where you said it was. Thank you. I have a new show called Guy Off the Hook. And in Guy Off the Hook, I do this, it's a live show, and it's kind of like with all of you, but there's no hot rods in it. We got to work on that, by the way, Carroll. We have to put my Cobra right there on stage, with like a small burner out of the back. So what this dish is, I'll tell you what this dish is, and I'm trying to think about Carroll Shelby. I'm going, how do you put a dish around a guy? How do you make something? So, you know, if you think about, anybody here cook shrimp? Anybody like to cook them? Okay, you know when shrimp get that little bit of glaze to them and they kind of roll up a little bit? If you think of a big fat meat on the back of a Cobra, like a 335 on a 17, and you kind of round it around a bit, and you put a little bit of color to it, it looks like a slick. Okay, so that I had to think about that. I'm going, well, pork. I don't really see pork wrapping around, Carolyn. I see chicken. I definitely ain't chicken. And I've got to go and what has it? And then, well, we couldn't. I tried to get some king cobra out of South Africa, but that didn't come in time. So I had to do it with shrimp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little dry rub. So I got a little bit of thyme. I got a little bit of oregano. A little marjoram. Yes, please. A little nitromethane. I always say. A little bit of granulated garlic. A little bit of cumin. Just a touch of cinnamon, believe it or not. Some paprika. Now paprika, that's the one, I'll tell you about this. When you think about it, you can overdo it when you put on like tire dressing, you know, it gets all drippy and gets in your rims. I don't know how the hell I made it to paprika and tire dressing, but you know what I'm talking about. Paprika, you really can't overdo. If you get that Hungarian paprika that really lights you up and gets too up, yes? You're Hungarian. You guys have some, you know about the paprika? See, they're calling in, Carroll.
All right, that's it.
They're here to help. Anyhow, so the gentleman with the Hungarian paprika can get a little bit tough on you, but use it. It's probably one of the foundations of great dry rubs. A little bit of cayenne. How hot do we want this today? Stir with it. Put the magic spice on there. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, a little bit of heat on there. A little bit of salt. Okay? And then just a little bit of black pepper. Now, you take that dry rub. Now, this is a dry rub. See, I think that enough times we're so into marinating. We're so into putting these marinades on meats and so forth. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're putting in things that we don't know, especially oil. Oil gets in the way a lot of times. That's why you have your flare-ups on your barbecue. Next time, before you're going to go and do a barbecue at home, and you put Italian dressing on it or whatever you might do, let's take all that out of there and just do a dry rub on top of it and see what happens, because it really does work well. Now, so this little dry rub go on top of these shrimp. Any questions? I like that question. Good answer. Cletus, are they going to get to eat today? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get some of these on top. Now, if I really had my choice about this and I didn't have a timeline issue and Carroll didn't have to go to his... Don't you have like a big luncheon about you today, Carroll?
Yep, that's all right. That's secondary, right?
Tell them... Yes, good. You know, when Carroll Shelby puts off his own big-time luncheon, his honorary luncheon for me to stand up here and cook shrimp in front of you, in front of the Den Bestie Motorsports trailer. Mike, let's even just stop the cooking and get a couple beers. All right. All right. So I got a little dry rub on there. Now I'm going to go down with some bacon. Now I'll explain this to you. We cook with fat all the time. People say, well, you know, I don't like fat, and I use this or I use that. The reality of it is you need some type of fat to cook with. Canola oil, vegetable oil, Crisco, beef lard, whatever you go with, you've got to have some form of fat to create this caramelization, this crunch, this little idea that you're looking for.